Hello and welcome to Boardgame TV, and welcome to our continuing History of Ghost Rider and Comics series. And we are on the Series 3 of Ghost Rider. Remember, this comic series got started because of the Ghost Rider movie. And because of the success of the Garth Ennis comic book series. Now, this comic series would come about in 2006 and would have two writers. It would last 35 issues. Now, for issues 1 through 19, Daniel Way would be the writer for it. And issues 20 through 35 would be Jason Aaron. And then for some weird reason, which I still to this day don't understand, there's a 6-issue series written by Jason Aaron after this. That's the conclusion to this series. I don't understand why they didn't just go ahead and do 6 more issues of the series and then wrap it up there. But you know, they did a 6-issue series called Heaven's on Fire after the last issue of this 3rd series, which basically is a continuation of the story and a conclusion to the story. So why they did that, like I said, I'll never know. There's also a 5-issue series midway through this series of Danny Ketch Ghost Rider. And of course the series had 2 annuals as well, no graphic novels. Had several artists, but we'll get into that in a second. What can I say about this series? Pleasantly surprised would be an understatement. Enthusiastically surprised, overjoyed surprised. I don't know. This series was great. This was a phenomenal series. You didn't really expect much from it. I had not heard of these writers at the time. And this series was fantastic. It was especially after the disaster that was the Hammer Lane. This series was, I highly recommend this series. Now, I prefer Jason Aaron's run on this book compared to Daniel Way's, but Daniel Way's run is still very good. I just like Jason Aaron's better, and you'll come to see why. But this book starts good and ends up great. Jason Aaron, probably his last 2/3 run on this book is some of the best Ghost Rider I ever read. It's phenomenal. I loved it so much. It brought me back to the days of the 90s beginning, the 90s Ghost Rider in the beginning, when I was so excited every month to get a book of Ghost Rider and read what would happen next. The end of Jason Aaron's run, or hell, the middle to the end of Jason Aaron's run, had me feeling the same way. It was fantastic. Daniel Way's run was pretty good, and that's whose run we're going to be going over in this video. Daniel Way, I never read anything from him. I know he kind of received acclaim for Wolverine, I think the Wolverine Origins, but I personally had never read anything from him, so I did not know what to expect. However, honestly, Daniel Way could have wrote Gibbledygook, and I would have loved this book, because the artist on this book was Javier Saltaires and Mark Texeira. The 2 best artists for Ghost Rider ever. It seemed that Marvel did not want to make a mistake and put 2 who they know are 2 of the best Ghost Rider artists ever. They put them back on this book all these years later, and this book does, especially on their run. Now, Saltaires would be the artist on the book all the way from issue 1 through 5. He would take a 2-issue break through 6 through 7, and then finish up Daniel Way's run on 6 through 18. Tex would be the inker for most of the book on through issues 1 through 19. However, he did have a few replacements here and there. I think Palmer and a couple others, but the art is fantastic. It felt like, it brought a tear to my eye. It felt like I was looking at the first 2 years of the 90s Ghost Rider run. It just felt like it. The tone of the book felt like it. And the art was just, as the hell, they got better as artists, to be honest with you. It just brought back so much memories of when I go through the pages of this book. It's like, man, this reminds me so much of the 90s series, and it would take me back to my youth, and I was like, man, I hope Saltaires and Tex, I hope God they stay on this book for as long as they can. And they did, Saltaire stayed on for almost 20 issues, so I mean, it was a blast from the past. It was great art. So it showed me that Marvel actually cared about this book and wanted it to be successful, because they put a good writer on there and they put fantastic artists on there, and it just blast from the past. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I knew this book was going to be good because of that. Now, Richard Corbin on his 2 fill-in issues, issue 6 or 7, I didn't like his art. I didn't think it fit the style, but the story was so good, and I knew Saltaires was coming back, so it didn't bother me at all very much. This run by Daniel Way is almost flawless. It has a few points I have contention with, but like I said, it's really good. The series starts where the Garth Ennis series ended. Basically, Johnny Blaze is still riding through hell every night, getting destroyed by demons and having to do it all over again. But the devil is finally introduced, and it's not Blackheart, so we assume that the devil or Mephisto, whatever you want to call him, came back. And is thoroughly enjoying the Ghost Rider being tortured. And the Ghost Rider, through a fluke though, finds a way to escape hell. But it actually turns out that the devil tricks him. The devil escapes hell with Ghost Rider. The devil wants out of hell, and he lets Ghost Rider think that he found a way out of hell, and he tricks Ghost Rider, and boom, the devil gets out of hell. Now, the devil is split into 666 fragments, and each fragment possesses a person, and of course those people become raging killers. And so the Ghost Rider has got to stop all 666 of them and destroy them. But the devil's counting on that, because you see, the devil has a plan, and the whole plan of it was he escapes, and every time Ghost Rider kills one of his possessed souls, he becomes stronger. So at first, every time Ghost Rider kills one of these possessed guys, they're weak. But the fewer they get, the stronger they become, and eventually there will be only one, and the devil can finally be his true form and inhabit the earth. And the way it's told is that the devil, if he inhabits the earth, it will cause hell on earth, because earth cannot hold a celestial being of his magnitude. So that's the whole dilemma that Johnny Blaze has to go through. Kill all and leave one, and surely not be able to beat him, and hell on earth ensues, or just leave him alone and they're going to go around killing masses and masses of people. I mean, right off the bat, when Johnny escapes hell, he runs into them, one of them, and masses of people are getting killed. And that is basically the whole story arc of Daniel Way, and it lasts 19 issues. There are a few, I wouldn't say side story issues. They were kind of forced. Civil War was going on when this series was going on, and so it was forced to be part of Civil War, but it still progresses the story. And as you can see, this issue story arc was going on when World War Hulk came about. And there's 2 issues that have to deal with the World War Hulk thing that kind of deviate a little bit from the storyline. And so the World War Hulk ones kind of don't fit. The Civil War one does, and that's like a 4 or 5 issue story arc, but the World War Hulk one doesn't kind of fit as much. And there's a 2 issue story arc where we finally get, how Johnny Blaze died and how he ended up in hell. So, the first little story arc is about, Johnny escaping hell, the devil coming out, Johnny figuring out his plan, so and so. And then the next little story arc we get is the 2 issue story arc where Johnny Blaze, it kind of goes in a flashback to where he dies. We even kind of get a retelling origin issue as well. Now, I'm going to tackle the retelling origin issue first. It's a pretty straightforward and good origin, but there's one kind of thing I have a nitpick with it. And that is, in the origin it says Barton Blaze died in a crash at the Quentin Carnival. See, in the issue, Johnny goes back to the Quentin Carnival, and it's abandoned, it's derelict. And he says, this is where all my troubles began. I saw my father die in a crash at the Quentin Carnival. That is not true. Now, if you read the first series of Ghost Rider, you know that's not true, because Johnny Blaze didn't meet the Quentin Carnival till towards the end of the series, and he never had any mention. He didn't know anybody that was there when he got his job there, including the owner, Quentin. And so that's kind of a little nitpick bugaboo, but it's not continuity breaking or anything like that. Naomi Ketch is even mentioned in this. And it kind of gives a good excuse as to why Johnny got into the occult. The explanation for why Johnny Blaze became so interested in the occult is kind of presented in this. And it's a good explanation. It makes sense. So, Doctor Strange makes a guest appearance in issue 3. And so that's 3 series in a row that Doctor Strange comes in on. And Ghost Rider has a fight with him. And I have a problem with the way they handle Doctor Strange. Now, Doctor Strange starts the fight with Ghost Rider because he's basically telling Johnny Blaze, you being here, you being on Earth is endangering the Earth with your celestial magnitude of power or that kind of thing. And Johnny Blaze fights him because he thinks he's Lucifer. Now, Doctor Strange and Johnny Blaze have been allies plenty of times before, and nothing like this has ever come up about Johnny Blaze being so powerful he could hurt the dimensional balance and all this kind of stuff. So I don't buy that either. That's a little problem I have. They've worked together enough in the past to not have that issue. So I think there could have had a better way to bring Doctor Strange into this book. Okay, so anyways, we get to the death of Johnny Blaze. And honestly, this is another problem I have. I know I'm saying I have these little nitpicky problems, but this is probably my biggest problem. And it's what makes the series not be perfect for me. These little problems, and especially this one. This series could have been perfect, but this is kind of... I don't like the way they explain how Johnny died. So basically, it's led to be believed that Roxanne and the kids, his kids, were killed by the devil or his demons. It's implied. It's not outright stated, but it's implied that. And either right before that or after that, Johnny Blaze started turning into the Ghost Rider again. Now, this not the Zarathos Ghost Rider though. He doesn't act like Zarathos or anything like that. Okay. So one day, and a depression or whatever, he wakes up on the side of a road after he'd been Ghost Rider. The cops pick him up and take him to it's a small town, take him to their jail. Apparently the night before, a bartender had been killed, shot in the head, and robbed or something like that. So his cellmate explains that they're going around just picking up everybody because they don't have any true suspects. And the guy says, I didn't kill the guy, but I need an alibi. If you alibi for me, I'll introduce you to my lawyer, who's really good. And Johnny kind of accepts. So the lawyer bails him and Johnny out. And the lawyer says, look, just, I'll represent you free of charge. You're in a thin blue line, podunk, hillbilly town where the cops will plant evidence and stuff on you. Just give my guy a good alibi. He didn't do it, and we'll help you out. And Johnny kind of reluctantly agrees to it, but he does agree to it. So him and this cellmate guy, the cellmate guy turns out to be some rich dude. He's got a lot of bikes and stuff, and him and Johnny kind of become friends. Johnny befriends him, and then one day they're going around riding on motorcycles, and they're speeding. The cops chase him, and the cops crash into him. Well, when the cops crash into Johnny, they find a gun on Johnny. And, of course, Johnny didn't have the gun. It was planted on him, but not by the cops, but by his buddy. And the gun that was planted on him was the gun that was used to kill the bartender. So the lawyer comes to go and bail Johnny and his friend out. And the lawyer's like, look, real quick, man, we got to get out of here before they're gonna charge you with possession of firearm and all that kind of stuff, but we got to get out of here before they run the ballistics on the gun, because that gun's going to get tied back to the bartender's murder. And Johnny, the lawyer, and his buddy are sitting in the back of the lawyer's limo in the car, and Johnny's like, well, wait a minute, I thought you said he didn't do it. And then they at that point reveal that they set Johnny up and to take the fall, and the guy who pretended to be his friend shoots Johnny in the head and kills him before he can become the Ghost Rider. Then his friend blows his own brains out, and it turns out the lawyer was actually a demon in the work of the devil. I don't like that. Honestly, I don't. Besides the logistics of it, like, okay, did they dump his body on the side of a road in a ditch somewhere, bury it? Okay, but when Johnny came back to Earth, what the hell happened to his body? You see what I'm saying? It kind of, did his body just go straight to hell after that? It doesn't really make sense, and I just don't like Johnny Blaze going out like that. I would have rather him went out, that the demons, he tried to fight off the demons from killing Roxanne and his kids as best he could, but in the end he lost. He was just overpowered and fell. I don't like that, but it is what it is. I get it's unique and it's different, it's unexpected, but I don't particularly like that. So Johnny also has a couple of power changes. Now, if you look at it, you see that he looks like Dan Ketch Ghost Rider. He does not look like Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider from the first series. He looks like Dan Ketch Ghost Rider. Honestly, don't have a problem with that, but he doesn't really use the chain. His motorcycle is like Dan Ketch's motorcycle, though. It's where he doesn't shoot a flame. He doesn't create a hellfire motorcycle like he did in the first series. It's a regular motorcycle. It comes to him when he needs it, and then when he transforms, the motorcycle's wheels transform into hellfire like Danny Ketch, his motorcycle did. He also can shoot fire out of his mouth now, And he also has the ability to do the penance stare. And he even mentions it in the book. It's like, I must have picked this up from Danny, learned how to do it from Danny or something, because he does the penance stare on Doctor Strange. And then kind of towards the end, he starts using the chain a little bit. But he doesn't ever, the chain never comes apart and flies in pieces and cuts people or anything like that. So his power set is a little bit changed. Again, I have no problem with that. I understand you want to try to combine the best of both worlds, but I do like it when each Ghost Rider has their own unique power. I would have much rather this Johnny still fry people with hellfire rather than giving them the penance stare. So the next big story arc is the Civil War tie-in, and it's basically in Civil War, the Punisher killed the villain Jack-o'-lantern. I think he just shot the hell out of him. And so the body goes back to the family in this small town. However, that body is one of the 666 that gets possessed by the devil, and so he's going around killing people. And of course, Johnny Blaze shows up in the town, and at first the sheriff thinks he's the one killing people, and they both figure out that it's the jack-o'-lantern, and him and the sheriff have to team up to take down the jack-o'-lantern, and they do. And then that leads into World War Hulk, where Johnny Blaze ends up in New York, and the Hulk is just on his rampage. I don't want to really go into the whole World War Hulk storyline. I think everybody knows it, but and so him and Ghost Rider have a fight, and eventually they both get their licks in, and eventually Ghost Rider kind of just walks away. He's basically like, you know, the Hulk's kind of right to be upset type thing. And so really that he has no business fighting the Hulk. He's like, it's not my priority. I got other things I got to worry about. So, you know, that's it for guest stars, the Hulk and Doctor Strange. The other thing is that I'm hoping Zadkiel, the Angel, is first mentioned in this series. Now, he will become a prominent figure later on in Jason Aaron's run, and even afterwards in the Marvel Universe. But he's first mentioned in this run, and he's not shown, but he's first mentioned. Okay, so here comes the other kind of weird part that didn't really need to happen. So in the end, Ghost Rider or Johnny Blaze devises a plan, and it's a pretty smart plan, to beat the devil at his own game. And you have two angels who feel bad for being on, even though we don't know his true motivation, what Zadkiel wants or anything. They helped him out, and apparently he's one of the reasons Ghost Rider's got problems or something. So they end up being reborn and coming to Earth to kind of help Johnny Blaze fight off the devil and do that. But he learns through them that his true origin, and that the spirit inhabiting him is or was an angel. And that Zadkiel was the one who put the angel in him. The devil says, yeah, I just kind of manipulated the situation when you sold your soul, and so I tap into some of your power and do all that, but I'm not the one who put the spirit, the spirit in you. It was Zadkiel, and he's not a demon, it's an angel. I don't know what to think about that. You try to think, well, let's see how it'll play out. Was Zarathos once an angel who turned evil? they're an angel in Johnny Blaze. It's just that Zarathos took over and was the dominant personality. Was the whole Zarathos thing a lie just from the beginning? It's hard to try to make sense of it. I mean, you know from the first series that Zarathos was an evil basic demon or demigod, and then after he got defeated by Mephisto and his soul got grafted to Johnny Blaze later on, Mephisto would put Zarathos' living essence in other souls from time to time, and when Johnny Blaze would become Ghost Rider and Zarathos would take over, Zarathos was thoroughly evil. And in the second series, Zarathos, it comes back. Although he's a little different than he was still evil. So this kind of screws things up a little bit. I don't know why he thought about doing that. I think he could have did a better way of explaining the whole Zarathos thing, because Zarathos doesn't get mentioned hardly anymore. It's like he's gone or what? Or is this spirit inhabiting Johnny Blaze, is this the angel? But see, when Mephisto says that, nah, when you sold your soul to me, we're meant to believe that the spirit that possessed Johnny Blaze at that point in time was an angel as well. Because, Mephisto, or the devil says, why do you think you always fought bad guys? Why did you think you were always going after bad guys? You think if you were possessed by a demon, the demon would care about going after other bad guys? So, there's a little bit of contention there. You can interpret it any way you want it. I like to try to interpret it. This is my personal way I interpret it. When Johnny made the deal with the devil, Zacadel interfered and put the soul of the angel in Johnny Blaze. To try to counter that, Mephisto put the soul of Zarathos in Johnny Blaze, and the soul of Zarathos ended up becoming the dominant one. And in the beginning of the comics, when Johnny Blaze was in control and had a little bit of control of the powers and was in control of everything, that's when the angel spirit was dominant. But when Johnny Blaze started to lose it, that's when the Zarathos became the more dominant and took over. And then you can say that in the second series, Blaze was still possessed by an angel. That's why he was able to shoot out a Hellfire gun, and not really the Medallion of Power had anything to do with it, and so forth. So you try to come up with that. I don't know if there's any scholars of Ghost Rider like me who try to come up with stuff, excuses of like that don't break the continuity, because you cannot ignore the fact that Johnny Blaze was possessed by the demon Zarathos in the first series. You just can't ignore it. Okay, that was the whole crux of the series, except for the very beginning of the series. So I like to come up with something like that. That's my other pet peeve. Other than that, I think Daniel Way did a very good job. He was helped by great art, and he had almost a 2-year run on the book to tell his story. Well, in the end of the story, basically Johnny Blaze gets one of the people that are possessed and kind of like paralyzes him. He like sticks a spike or something in his neck or in his head. So the possessed spirit is still there, but he can't do anything. He's like comatose. He like can't move. And so he kills all the others, 666 spirits that are being possessed inside of people, except for another one. And So he gets in a final showdown with the devil, and of course the devil thinks he's going to win because he thinks, hey, this is my last avatar. There's no way I could be beaten. But Johnny beats him and then tells him, you know, you're not the last avatar. I've been holding one hostage for a while now, paralyzed. And so he kills that one, and then he has a friend he met up with, and kill the other one, and at the right time. And so that sends the devil back to hell. And that's where Daniel Way's storyline ends. It's a good run. It's a lot better than some other things that have been printed for Ghost Rider. Like I said, the art is great. The story is good. It does tie up a lot of things, and it brings Johnny Blaze back to the forefront on Earth as Ghost Rider. So, kudos to Daniel Way. Now, around this time, there would be the Dan Ketch Ghost Rider 5-issue series, and that would be in 2008. And this is kind of like a springboard into Jason Aaron's run on Ghost Rider. And it's written by Simon Spurrier, and it's also drawn by Saltaires, which is a great bonus. Okay? If you wanted to know what happened to Danny Ketch, well, now you're going to find out, because this series answers what happened to Danny Ketch and sets up what's to come at the same time. So the series kind of basically goes with the Spider-Man issue ending, but you still could use the ending from issue 94. Basically, Dan bonded back with Noble Kell and became the Ghost Rider. Either because of the events of that Spider-Man issue, or if you don't consider the Spider-Man issue to be a continuity thing, then you can still say, well, after issue 94, Noble had to kind of reemerge with Danny Ketch in order to stay alive, or you know, have the bond. They needed that bond in order to exist. So anyways, Dan wants the Ghost Rider out of him. And he wants the Ghost Rider out of him bad. So he gets this kind of like techno exorcist named Mary LeBeau, and she exorcises him of the Ghost Rider. But unfortunately for Danny, it's like a drug. He eventually needs the Ghost Rider back inside of him. And he wants the Ghost Rider back inside of him. Even though she told him, look, this is a one-time thing. If I exorcise the Ghost Rider from you, you're never going to get it back. He even gets so desperate to get the Ghost Rider back, he goes into the middle of the street in New York and going to light himself on fire to become the Ghost Rider. He stopped from doing it, of course. So he's at a real desperate point in his life now. He lives in a rat hole apartment, apparently has no job, gets drunk all the time, kind of gets in fights, and really always calling and bothering this married lady to try to get her to put the spirit of vengeance back inside of him, but she can't. And so he's at a real low point. Doesn't mention anything about Stacy or his mom or anybody else, and it kind of pokes fun at a little bit of the history of his Ghost Rider with the continuity things with Noble Kell. But going forward, so he meets up with this Indian lady. He meets her in the bar, and she's interested in him, trying to say like, you once had the power and stuff like that. And he's kind of weirded out by it, but okay. So Zacadel sends this guy called Mr. 11 in the form of a raven, and he gives him a little bit of power to become the Ghost Rider again, but he's like a weakened version of the Ghost Rider. He doesn't even have a flaming skull. It's like black around his skull. And he can't even do all his powers like the Pendant Stare or nothing. And he gives him a little taste of the power to help break up a mugging or a fight in a back alley. And of course Dan loves it. But immediately he turned, after a minute, he's only Ghost Rider for like a minute, he turns back to Danny. And he's like, I need more. I need more, more, more. Of course, what the Raven is doing is putting Danny in situations. He's at one time he's telling Danny, look, you don't need any more. I'm not going to give you that much more. But then he puts Danny in situations and makes Danny beg him to give him some more power, and give him the power and make it last a little bit longer. And so that goes on for a little bit. And come to find out that that Indian lady is a Ghost Rider, and she takes on like a form of almost kind of like Kali. She's got all these different arms and stuff. Well, there was a villain in Ivan Valdez's run, and he made a bunch of Blackheart made a bunch of Spirits of Vengeance lieutenants. That Black Rose lady was one, which ended up being Roxanne Simpson. Pauline was one. There was the Doghead guy, and there was that Wallow chick. But there was also another guy named Verminous Rex. And Verminous Rex was this rat guy, rat kind of monster that Ghost Rider had fought before in World War I and supposedly destroyed. Well, he's back, and he's feeding off other Ghost Riders and taking their power to become stronger and stronger and stronger to where he can rebuild his race of rat people. And so Danny sees that Hindu Ghost Rider lady fight Verminous Rex, and she basically gets beat. And the Raven tells him, look, man, you got to stop Verminous Rex. You got to stop him. We're going to give you a little bit of power here and there, but you got to stop him. We can only give you so much, but you got to stop him. And so basically they keep doing that, and what it comes down to in the end is he can't stop Verminous. Verminous becomes too powerful, and Verminous has captured a couple other Ghost Riders, and what's going to happen is these Ghost Riders are going to go through their power, and they're going to explode and kill themselves, and it's going to be a big cluster type thing. So the Raven basically tells them, look, you need to leech their power from them. I'm not going to give you power this time. You use this husk of the Ghost Rider or the remaining essence of the Ghost Rider Hindu lady. She's going to die. She's going to die anyways from her wounds. She's going to explode. Take the power from her, absorb it into you. You're strong enough to handle it, and beat Verminous Rex, and keep doing this with other Ghost Riders. You learn that there are other Ghost Riders out there. You learn that the Ghost Riders were a weapon of heaven in the war against hell, and they sent Zacadel was in charge of the weapons of heaven, and basically people, when they would become Ghost Rider, eventually they would use too much of the power or wouldn't be strong enough, and they would explode and blow themselves up. And it was kind of an error on Heaven's part, and Zacadel has chosen Danny Ketch to fix this error and go and find all the other Ghost Riders on Earth and basically take their power from them. Otherwise, they're just going to suffer in horrible amounts, and some of them may even lose control and go evil and that kind of stuff. And of course, Danny, who's now had a taste of the Ghost Rider power so many times, accepts, because this is going to give him more and more power. It's basically Zacadel tricked him and is using him as a puppet for his own means. And that's how the series ends, with Danny absorbing the full powers of the Hindu Ghost Rider lady, another one that had been captured by Verminous Rex. He destroys Verminous Rex. He absorbs Verminous Rex's powers, and Zacadel gives him the ability to where he won't explode. And he chose Danny because Danny was righteous and pure. And, you know, if you do as I say, you know, Zacadel makes himself all heavenly and all holy. And so Danny kind of falls for it and accepts his responsibility. And Zacadel tells him, look, the first one you need to try to get, or eventually you're going to have to get, is your brother Johnny Blaze. He's the Ghost Rider again. He's going to go out of control. He's going to lose it. You need to save him. Save his soul. And that's the way he makes it out to be, is that if a person who is Ghost Rider explodes or loses control, they're going to go to hell. Whereas if you take the power from them and they die, they can go to heaven. He kind of makes it like that. So Danny agrees to do this, to go kill his brother Johnny Blaze and take his power, and kill any other remaining Ghost Riders on Earth and take their power. And of course that coincides with Zacadel's secret plan, which Zacadel is really about to start a war in heaven. He's about to try to take over the throne in heaven, and he needs the powers of the Ghost Riders to do so. And in order for him to get the powers of Ghost Riders, he has to have Danny do this. The plan is better explained, or fully explained, in Jason Aaron's run. But the just basic gist of it you get is that Zacadel is fixing to start a war in heaven to try to take the throne, and he needs the powers of the Ghost Riders to give him the edge that he needs to win in battle, and he's using Danny Ketch as a puppet to do so. And that's where this series goes. Now, it was nice to see Danny back. I don't agree about the wishy-washy way of his powers. Whether he wants them or not. You know, it seemed like at the end of issue 94 and in that Spider-Man issue, he was happy and content to not be Ghost Rider anymore. And then somehow he's, okay, well, I'll begrudgingly be Ghost Rider again. And then he wants to get rid of the powers again. And he gets rid of it. Then he wants to get the powers again. It's a little wishy-washy. But it's great to see Danny back. And it was very exciting. The art for the book was good. The story for the most part was good. And the mythos building was good. We got a Ghost Rider from a Hindu country, and she looked really cool. And the return of Verminous Rex was really good. You know, he never got his comeuppance in the end of the second series. So it was kind of good to see the story and the lore expand. His power set is different, and his power set will be fleshed out more in Jason Aaron's run. But it seems like the more souls he sucks, the more powerful he's become and more powers he gets. So it's still unknown whether they acknowledge the Noble Kell thing or not. Is he now Noble Kell Ghost Rider, or is the Noble Kell Ghost Rider fully gone, and this Ghost Rider power is from the people's souls he sucks? Because when Zacadel was giving him a little taste of power, he never had the flaming skull. Like I said, he had black around his skull, and he didn't have a flaming bike either. But at the end, when he sucks the souls from the other Ghost Riders, he gets the flaming skull and he gets the flaming bike. So we're led to believe that now Dan Ketch has the powers of the Ghost Rider, but he's not possessed by the spirit of Noble Kell. So that's what we're led to believe. So they're kind of like just trying to forgo the whole Noble Kell thing, trying to just forget about that, put that under the rug, because that, like I said in my other video, it kind of breaks continuity or messes it up a little bit. But overall, it's a good series, and if you're a fan and you didn't know about this series, which it didn't get publicized very much at all, if you're a fan of the second series, I would highly recommend getting those 5 issues. It's only 5 weird number, but yes, there's only 5 because it brings closure even with issue 94 or without issue 94. Either way you go, it brings closure to Danny Ketch and brings him back into the Marvel Universe, which if you read the letters columns of the Ghost Rider 3rd series, especially in the beginning and middle, you'll get a lot of freaking, hey, but where's Dan Ketch at? Hey, bring back Dan Ketch. Hey, you gonna bring back Dan Ketch? Because the book stylistically is like the Dan Ketch series. It even has the Ghost Rider font on the covers of the issues are like the 90s Ghost Rider issues. The artists are the same artist. The tone of the book, a dark tone, although not very street level wise with supervillains, excuse me, and supervillains, still has that tone of the book. So it's very much like that book. So you, of course, yeah, you're going to get a lot of people from writing in, hey, bring Dan Ketch back. Hey, this book is great, but where's Danny? And that kind of stuff. And you know, everybody was wondering where the hell Danny was. So Danny Ketch made his triumphant return in that, and of course he will be a prominent figure in the Ghost Rider series almost from here on out. And it was great to see him. It was great to see him back. So the Dan Ketch miniseries, highly recommend you get it, especially if you are a fan of Dan Ketch Ghost Rider. Just about any Dan Ketch Ghost Rider is good Ghost Rider. And Daniel Way's run on the book was a good start, a good story, a good way to bring Johnny Blaze back into the Marvel Universe, to bring our Ghost Rider back, and kind of tie up some loose ends, although it does create some questions on its own. And I have a little problem with the death of Johnny Blaze. I have a little problem with it was always an angel type thing. So, you know, a few picks here or there, but overall it was a good series and a good run by Daniel Way. So I'm going to leave it there. Next, we're going to go into Jason Aaron's run on the book, and we're going to have a field day with it because I love it. So I hope to see you then. Until then, have fun.